This video is an example of pure self-indulgence on my part, and is a bit of an experiment to see if I can create a turn-by-turn battle report. Having drafted a set of fast-play 3x3 Napoleonic wargame rules and a simple campaign system based on the map board from the 1970s Waddington's board game campaign, I intended to playtest both as a solo campaign. And then Professor Gary Sheffield offered to act as an online opponent for all or some of the battles. Such an offer was just too good to turn down, and this video is a record of the first battle of that campaign. But first, a word about the campaign map that I used. Waddington's game was originally published in 1971, and its game board was a very stylised gridded map of Europe. I used this as a basis, and when I drew my own gridded map of France and Prussia. This became my campaign map. The campaign started on the 1st of March 1810, and by the 6th of March the two sides had troops facing each other on the southern frontier, and a battle was inevitable. The opposing sides, the 2nd French Infantry Division and the 2nd Prussian Infantry Division, were separated by a river. The Prussians chose to place their artillery on the hill, whilst the French put theirs in the centre of their formation. Both the Generals Steiner and Lepoint, took up positions close to their artillery. The battle began with an exchange of ineffective artillery fire from both sides, after which the Prussians chose to advance across their whole front. The French countered by firing their artillery at the advancing Prussians, but to no effect on them. The French responded by moving the infantry unit on their left flank forward and up to the river's edge, and replacing it by the infantry unit they had been holding in reserve. The French infantry unit in the wood moved forward to the edge of the river, and its place in the wood was taken by the cavalry unit that the French had been holding in reserve. The French artillery unit fired at the Prussian infantry unit to its front and inflicted the loss of 1 strength point. The infantry unit on the Prussian left flank ineffectually fired at the French infantry unit on the other side of the river. On the Prussian right flank, its infantry unit hit its French opponent, inflicting the loss of 1 strength point. The Prussian artillery fired at the already weakened French infantry unit, which was destroyed. Fire from the French artillery unit forced the Prussian infantry unit in front of it to fall back. The French infantry unit on their right flank fired at the Prussian infantry unit opposite it and inflicted the loss of 1 strength point. The Prussian artillery unit fired at the French artillery unit, which it hit, causing it to lose 1 strength point. Furthermore, General Lepoint, the French general, was hit and wounded, causing the loss of a further strength point. The Prussian infantry unit that had withdrawn advanced and reoccupied its former position, whilst the infantry unit on its left resumed the firefight with the French unit on the opposite bank of the river. In response to this, General Lepoint moved his right-hand infantry unit forward to the riverbank. Once again, the Prussian artillery unit fired at the French artillery unit and hit it, as a result of which the French artillery unit was destroyed. All the Prussian infantry units fired at the opposing French units, with the result that the leftmost French infantry unit suffered the loss of 1 strength point. General Lepoint responded by moving his right-hand infantry unit sideways to give the cavalry space to advance out of the wood and up to the edge of the river. At the same time, the left-hand French infantry unit fired at its opponent across the river, but to no effect. The Prussian artillery unit fired at the French infantry unit in front of it. The left-hand Prussian infantry unit fired at the French cavalry unit, and the right-hand Prussian infantry unit fired at the nearest French infantry unit, but none of this fire had any effect on the French units. General Lepoint now decided to push forward, and his cavalry unit and centre infantry unit moved into the river and began to ford it. At first it looked as if the French gamble had paid off. Their cavalry engaged the left-hand Prussian infantry unit in close combat, and despite being in the river, it managed to inflict the loss of 1 strength point on the Prussian infantry unit. In the centre of the battlefield, the French and Prussian infantry units engaged in close combat, but neither side was able to prevail. The left-hand French infantry unit fired at the right-hand Prussian infantry unit, but without any success. General Lapointe then led his remaining infantry unit forward to support the French infantry unit in the centre of the battlefield. General Steiner, the Prussian commander, ordered his left-hand infantry unit to withdraw to allow his cavalry unit, which had been in reserve, to charge forward and engage the French cavalry unit in close combat. The result of this fighting was inconclusive, but it meant that the French cavalry were unlikely to be able to cross the river without suffering casualties that they could ill afford. In the centre of the battlefield, the Prussian and French infantry units continued to engage each other in close combat, with the result that the French infantry unit lost 1 more strength point. At this stage in the battle, the French 2nd Division had suffered the loss of 8 strength points, whilst the Prussians had only lost 3. The injured General Lapointe ordered his division to withdraw, and General Steiner let them retreat unhindered. He had won the Battle of the Southern Frontier and had shown that Prussia was not the aggressor by not following up and invading France to destroy his opponent's division. He expected the king to endorse this decision on political grounds and possibly to recognise his triumph with some sort of honour or preferment. I hope you've enjoyed this short battle report. If you did, please leave a comment, and if you haven't yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, then please do so. In the meantime, continue to enjoy your wargaming.